Hi, I'm Nan Simonson, and I'm so glad you joined me. I'm doing a 12-week series, and we are talking about, well, the word powerfully. This is my book. Powerfully is an acronym. We began, and we're looking at, just a minute, what we call PowerPoints. I wanted to get something out in front of me. We're talking about PowerPoints, points of interest as it relates to lifestyle as medicine. Well, my book that I wrote in, well, it was published December of 2022, no, 2020. As I said, it has a acronym that outlines lifestyle pillars, all of which have been shown to make a difference in health, stamina, balance, joy, emotional health, as well as longevity. And today we're going to be talking about the word W, and that represents whole food. That represents whole food, plant-based. Why and what pillars are we talking about here? Just a quick synopsis. I am a health and lifestyle coach certified to teach patients and clients how to maximize their health using the precepts of Hippocrates, and that is, let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, and I quoted this in my book, wrote, "Our bodies are our gardens, to which our wills are our gardeners." In other words, our bodies will bloom with vibrant health if, based on our will and determination to give it what it needs, we are satisfying its needs. And we can do that with the pillars of lifestyle medicine as outlined by the College of Lifestyle Medicine. The College of Lifestyle Medicine is now certifying doctors. It has been, it's one of the fastest growing certifications among allopathic doctors, doctors who decided to become doctors to take care of some people and to create health, and realized that they're not in healthcare, they're in sickness care, and their sickness care is not changing the basis of health. It's simply treating, medicating, and offering procedures. Lifestyle doctors actually evaluate all of the things that make us sick by asking us those questions. They actually take that kind of time in an appointment, and then they prescribe based on lifestyle. And the basic pillars of lifestyle medicine are nourishment, and the College of Lifestyle Medicine recommends whole food, plant-based nourishment. And we'll talk about that because that's today's subject. And movement, a minimum of 150 minutes a week of vigorous movement, or at least movement that kind of makes us breathe a little heavier, move a little faster. And most of us are doing more than that, but without that kind of movement, our body doesn't even know how to maintain health, because our brain knows our body is moving because of movement. It doesn't even know what our body is doing if we're not moving. We're not moving our muscles, we're not pumping our heart, we're not stimulating our lymphatic system, which is only stimulated through muscle action. And then there is community. Would you believe that our connection with others, our connection with people who care about us and caring about others, it can be people, it can be animals, that kind of passion keeps us going. Well, I'll say, as well as food. Nothing can replace what food does for us, feeding us at a cellular level, especially our microbiome. And I'll mention a little bit about that, because you can't talk about food without talking about the microbiome. But we can eat all of the right food, and yet we may not process it at all. if we are stressed due to either isolation or depression or loneliness or emotional trauma. So our resilience, besides community, is another pillar of health. And in resilience, under resilience, we're talking about our prioritizing of sleep. The recommendation is 7 to 8 or 9 hours a day, and stress management. And we do that through things like breath work, through things like mindfulness and meditation, and all of that is coming up because that's part of what we'll be doing for these 12 weeks. Short training portions, 15 to 20 minutes, and then the group gets together. We have a group here that we'll be having a conversation with when I finish this training segment. So let's get into what we mean by whole food plant-based. I'm not going to be doing a training segment here and now on how to go whole food plant-based, how to transition. I won't even be talking about all the parameters, but I want to define by the title of this, which is, what does it mean? What does whole food plant-based mean? Let's talk about that, and let's talk about just a basic concept that's important to know, and that is that our health is based on the organs you're familiar with, but there's also another organ that's been identified, not a real organ, but kind of, and that is our microbiome. Our microbiome is throughout our body. It's on our surfaces, it's in us, it's in our ears, in our nose. Our microbiome changes based on what's around us, based on how we were born, C-section or vaginally, how we move through our world. Are we overly clean so we have no bacteria and we've killed part of that microbiome? Are we living in sterilized areas, or do we get out? And do we get out in nature? Because actually nature, being out in nature and just the elements in the air help feed our microbiome and sort of evolve it into what it will be at any given time. So the microbiome is trillions of bacteria, archaea, which is one of the most ancient forms of, I'll call it life, tiny little organisms, funguses, yeasts, hopefully friendly. The microbiome is this living bunch of cells, again, all over, but primarily in our gut, our large colon. The metabolites of the microbiome are short chain fatty acids. That is, they are developed by the bacteria as they eat. And what do they eat? They eat one thing, and one thing only, and that is fiber. The variety of fiber makes a difference. The kind of fiber makes a difference. If we're eating foods that don't feed our microbiome, we're going to start developing unfriendly bacteria that off-puts oxidation. If we're eating a combination, and there was a study, a 10-year study on this called the American Gut Project, and the outcome of that has been an explosion of understanding of what the microbiome and what fiber does. We used to think fiber was that thing that you took, and quite often in a orange powder, so that you could poop. It's so much more than that. Fiber is, again, what feeds the bacteria that then create the short chain fatty acids that then feed our organs, our blood vessels, our every organ and every element and every cell in our body are affected by the short chain fatty acids of the microbiome. So if the only thing the microbiome eats is fiber, we better eat plenty of that, and a wide variety of it. Where do we get fiber? Do we get it from eggs, milk, cheese, lambs, cows, chickens, fish? No, there's no fiber in animal food. The place that we get our fiber is plant foods. And the greater the variety, and this is what the American Gut Project recommends, 30 different plants a week, 30 different types of plants in a week. I just had a salad that had 23 different plant elements because I make my own dressings, and my dressings have a number of, well, they're all plant-based. My different types of lettuces, 3 or 4 types of lettuce, a number of bits of fruit, chickpeas and soybeans. And in other words, if you start counting the cilantro, the parsley, the rosemary in the dressing, on and on, it adds up tremendously. But some people fall way short of that, because with the standard American diet, some people eat nothing but animal product morning, noon, and night. They think it's the protein that's going to make them healthy and strong. That's not so. If it were so, Americans eat more protein probably than anybody in any other country. We're getting larger, sicker, and more chronic disease than just about any other country. We're what, number 25 in the world in health? That's absurd, considering the amount of money we pay for healthcare. So that variety is easy to do if you're thinking plants, and if you eat plants every chance you get. So what are plants? They're greens, they're starchy vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, fruits of every kind, grains of every kind, legumes of every kind, seeds and nuts, herbs and spices. Those are all plant-based. They are all fiber-based. They are all protein sources to a degree. Fruits may be less than legumes, but still they're all protein sources. So that's your basis. That's the bottom line. When I began as a health coach with Dr. Wayne Dysinger at Lifestyle Medical here in Riverside, California, I'm about 45 minutes east of Los Angeles, due east. I was a newly certified health coach. If I had been working with a allopathic doctor, a traditional doctor and they are not trained in nutrition, I don't know what I would be teaching. I wouldn't have been with an allopathic doctor, because I had just finished my training. And in the fall, I began with Dr. Dysinger in January of 2019. In the fall of 2018, I began my, I was searching for a diet because I was getting all the diseases, high blood pressure, pre-diabetic, digestive problems. They wanted to take my gallbladder out, on and on. And I said no to all of that. I was looking for a diet. My own research came up with a plant-based diet. So by the time I met the team at Dr. Dysinger's and they were looking for a health coach, this was what I was doing, plant-based diet. So that would have been in the fall of 2018. So it's going on 5 years now. And in that time, I've gotten stronger, feel younger. I'm 72 now. And it's because of the pillars of lifestyle medicine that every lifestyle doctor is going to promote to their patients. That was the food, the movement, the community, the stress management, prioritizing sleep, and then staying away from addictive substances. So let's talk again about the whole food. I am what you would call vegan. In other words, I don't eat animal product of any kind, but I usually don't identify that way because it doesn't give enough information. I eat a whole food, plant-based diet. Some people, well, I guess you could call it plant exclusive diet. If I were vegan, I could go to 7-Eleven, get a Slurpee with vanilla syrup, Oreos, and a Twizzler, and say that I was vegan because there's no animal product there. That's not healthy. In other words, there are so many manufactured foods that are even labeled vegan, or just by understanding vegan, there are no animal products, but that doesn't make them healthy any more than having something that says gluten-free makes it healthy. It could still be just a plain denuded starch that has nothing to do with feeding the microbiome. The microbiome wants whole food, as close to nature as possible. So I'm going to give you some examples of something that I saw recently to help you, I'll say, discern what you would want to put in your body based on, I'll say, that dictate of whole food, plant-based, as close as nature as possible. In other words, the apple, rather than the, let's say, cinnamon crumble apple muffin, which has maybe a teaspoon of apple flavoring in it, and the rest of it is denuded flours. Flours, F-L-O-U-R-S. We're looking at carrot, rather than a carrot cake from Costco that has maybe one shredded carrot in the entire sheet cake, and it's full of oil and eggs and, again, denuded flours. And our different kinds of flour is what I'm referring to when I say flours. We're looking at getting so used to eating food as close to nature as possible, as close to grown as possible, that our taste buds embrace those kinds of foods. If you're not used to whole foods that are plant-based, and you're used to processed foods, you'll hear me say again and again, I'm sure I said it last week, that most Americans eat anywhere from 60 to 65% of their daily caloric intake from processed foods, things that are made for them that aren't even real foods. They go through fast food restaurants, they buy packaged things that are a bunch of ingredients that aren't the real food, just a flavoring from it, and they think they're nourishing their body. It leaves the microbiome completely depleted of anything that it can use, which means then some bad bacteria starts to grow. And you're going to think that I'm exaggerating when I say this. The microbiome and the bacteria in it will direct our cravings toward what they want. If I'm used to eating, and I am, a very, very clean diet, whole food, plant-based, as close to nature as I can get it, 99% of the time, my microbiome wants that kind of food. It's used to it, and I'll crave those things, and I'll love the flavors. If, on the other hand, I'm used to processed foods with fat, oil, sugar combined in high ratios, those foods act as a drug. They ping the dopamine receptors, and dopamine is not only reward, but it's also a motivator to get more of what it wants. And people who eat processed foods find it very hard to feel satisfied with anything but that, because the microbiome wants more of that. Those bacteria that are so used to these foods that feed, I'll say, almost a diseased gut, one that's used to things that would never support a healthy, vibrant microbiome. The body will continue to crave those things that you're used to. So sometimes people will say, I find this hard because it doesn't taste as good to me. And I say, you will neuroadapt. Sometimes they say it's hard because I'm craving and you fill in the blank, I don't know, English muffins, I don't mean English muffins, but packaged sweetbreads or the Cinnabons, or, whatever it is that somebody is getting used to and calling their meal. You'll crave it, and you'll crave it until your taste buds neuroadapt, which they do within a week or two, and sometimes 3. So that's the microbiome. That's what whole food plant-based means. That's about all I'm going to say about that. My book, or In Aging Powerfully, I talk about how I transitioned from a eating disorder for the prior 50 years of my life, over 50 years, to stopping that within a 3-month period of time because of the whole food plant-based diet that I adopted in the fall of 2018 and how I was able to leave that behind. That's after decades and decades of basically binging on junk food. I was able to stop because my body started loving the effects, not only in the brain and the attitude, but also the feelings throughout the body of just calm and of a balanced system. But I want to show you what can help you maybe make some decisions if you decide, and if you are already on that path, because a number of you that meet with me on a weekly basis, we meet doing this on Tuesdays at 1:30 Pacific time. A lot of you are already on board with that, but I'm going to show you something because this kind of concept has become very, very popular. In other words, a vegan food that is a substitute for the traditional product that some people are so excited about. And I'm going to screen share to show you what I'm talking about. All right, get this out of the way. Excuse me. All right. I don't know if you recognize this product, but people are loving this product called Just Egg. I have a vegan cookbook that I was really excited to get. And I was surprised to see that this vegan chef, and this is why I prefer the word whole food plant-based, this cookbook could never have passed muster with a whole food plant-based descriptive, but it was vegan. And recipe after recipe, she used Just Egg. Well, gosh, that would be great if we had a product that was very much like egg, that was close to whole food, and that was healthy. But let's look at the ingredients. I'll show you the back end of it. All right, this container that we looked at, based on what it shows in the back, should give us 8 servings of egg. Now, this is only a, what is this? 12-ounce container. 8 into that 12 is only about 1.5 ounces. Nobody's going to eat that little. In other words, somebody will probably use this entire container on 3 to 4 servings. So that's much, much more than they are giving the specifics on a serving for. So you keep that in mind. Most people are going to have at least double that, if not more. They say 3 tablespoons is a serving. 3 tablespoons? Who's going to feel that they've eaten if they've had 3 tablespoons of a scrambled anything? That 3 tablespoons is 70 calories. How much fat? 5. Now, let me tell you about fat. As opposed to protein, that's 4 calories a gram, or carbohydrate, that's 4 calories a gram. Protein or fat is 9 calories a gram. So 9 times 5 is what? 45? Is my math right? I hope it is. So out of this, no, is that true? 5 times 9 is 45, right? I think so. So out of these 70 calories, 45 of that, more than half, is fat. And we'll see where the fat comes from. Sodium, 160 milligrams. That's not terrible, but if you're eating 2 or 3 times that much in order to get a serving, that's not so great. Fiber, there's no fiber, and there's 6 grams of protein. So that's pretty good. As a matter of fact, if they have 2 or 3 times that, that's going to be 12 or 18 grams of protein, and no other nutrients, no calcium, no iron, no potassium. So what's in it? Or the mung bean protein, that's a decent protein, but it's what they call an isolate. It means they've taken a bean, a mung bean, and they've isolated out its protein by getting rid of the fiber, by getting rid of the vitamins and the nutrients. The only thing they've pulled out of there is protein. Expeller pressed canola oil. The canola oil is processed, and it takes a chemical to get the process clean. So that's one of the reasons I don't even eat oils. I don't cook with oil. I don't add oil to anything I cook because it's a processed food. Contains less than 2% of onion, golem gum, carrot extract, natural flavors, turmeric, that explains the color, that's nice, sugar, salt, tapioca. So primarily, this is protein and fat. It's not a whole food, though. The only thing that's a whole food could be the mung bean protein. The problem is that's an isolate. It's not, it doesn't feed the microbiome in any way because it doesn't have the fiber. And how much fiber does this have? Oh, 0. In other words, it doesn't feed the microbiome at all. Let's look at another one, another example. I saw this. If you're whole food plant-based, if you're vegan, you don't drink milk, you drink, as a milk substitute, most of them are plant milks. I love my plant milks. This one is oat milk, and oat milks become very popular. And this is a brand of oat milk, and I like organic because that means that they're not using the herbicides and pesticides that I want to avoid. But let's look at the label. 8 ounces is 140 calories. How much fat is in that? They've added to that oat milk, again, 45 calories of fat. And they've used, what did they use for the fat? Sunflower oil, again, another expressed oil, another processed oil. I wouldn't be drinking a plant milk that had oil added to it. Why would we want to do that? The almond milk, for example, and soy milk have their own fat because that's the natural element of those products. And then it has the salt and the potassium carbonate. Any added sugars? Take a look at the total sugars. They're 11. Well, that would be from the oat. And what you're looking for is any included sugars, and I don't see that. So it is unsweetened. There's only 1 gram of protein in this milk, and it's mainly then, the calories are mainly from the carbohydrates and the fat. Is this a healthy food? Less than 1 gram of fiber. It's not going to feed the microbiome, and it's not going to give me protein. It'll just be tasty because the oat milks tend to be the sweeter flavored milks. And then one other, this is Follow Your Heart Parmesan. A lot of us that are whole food plant-based make our own Parmesan cheese, and we'll make it out of maybe ground up nuts and maybe some oat in there, and then nutritional yeast, and then some seasonings like maybe garlic and onion powder. And this looks good. Dairy-free Parmesan, vegan. Yeah, let's grab it. Well, now this is hard to get because it's a small bottle, and they say gluten-free, non-GMO, soy-free, modified potato starch. Well, let's start by looking at 1 serving, and 1 serving is 2 teaspoons. Teaspoons are tiny, by the way. Most people who put a Parmesan on something are going to have it by the tablespoons, but this is 2 teaspoons, 20 calories per teaspoon. And oh shoot, I don't have the fat in there. It looks like on the side, I'm sorry, I should have turned this better to see it, but it looks like 5 grams. No, it couldn't be 5 grams of fat. I don't have that, so I can't even speak on that one. But in other words, there's no protein. There is, let's look at the ingredients. Palm fruit oil. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't touch palm oil. Palm oil is usually harvested by stripping the land, and palm oil is the most saturated, even greater than coconut oil, one of the most saturated fats that you can have. Filtered water, expeller, more oil, cellulose, maltodextrin, flavors. There's all this stuff in here, vegetable glycerin, that has nothing to do with making this a whole food. Carrageenan, by the way, has been shown to be a carcinogen. That's shocking, and it's still in here. Organic chickpea mixed, etc., etc. So a couple of things about this. Look at the serving size. You're going to use far more than 2 teaspoons if you're using this as a Parmesan. It's so much easier to make your own when you're going whole food plant-based rather than buying a lot of these ingredients. And if you buy, or a lot of these products, and if you buy them, please be sure to turn it over and look at the labels. You don't want a lot of processed oil or little. And that's why I make almost everything that I use as an additional flavoring. And I use a lot of additional flavorings, but not with all this junk in it, and certainly not with a carcinogenic addition. It's a stabilizer, actually, a preservative. It doesn't belong in our body, and things like that will ruin our microbiome. I'm going to stop screen sharing. Okay, and I'll go back to this. All right, so what I'll leave you with as I transition back to our group today is that a whole food plant-based diet will help create a balanced system, a healthy microbiome, and add to your longevity, your years and years of health ongoing. That microbiome will be fed by plant foods. Only plant foods have the fiber that the microbiome wants. And so why not go for nutrient dense? In other words, what I eat, I want to feed my body. I want to feed me at a cellular level, and I want to have a lot of vitamins and minerals. You can fall in love with those foods I'm talking about by looking for plant foods that are as close to nature as possible that you happen to love. And you can make the foods that you love on a regular basis, your transitional foods like tacos, like burgers, like pasta. Last night, we had a delicious pasta that was made creamy with some cashews and water blended up in the blender, but then tomato sauce and corn and black beans over a high fiber. It was a chickpea pasta. It was a wonderful meal, and it was relatively whole food because that chickpea was still filled. It wasn't an isolate. It was just ground up chickpeas that that was dried out. You add water to a pasta and you've got it reconstituted, had the fiber, had the protein, and had most of the elements of that chickpea if it had been fresh. So my point was, if there's a food you love and you would miss if you decided not to make that an animal based food, you can do so much with the delicious flavors of plants, I promise. Stay tuned, keep coming back, and we talk more and more about this. But next week, we'll be talking about the E under power, and that is movement, that is exercise, how you get it in, what you can do to move, and what it'll do for your body. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to go to our group now and have a great day because I know I'm going to. Bye-bye.